Oh. What's up, chat? Uh, I'm so tired. Yo, BB, how come you're streaming today? What? I stream every other day. What are you talking about? This is the right day, right? I fucking hate it when somebody in chat makes me question my sense of time, but I'm pretty sure this is the day after the last day in which I streamed, right? I'm just being fucking gaslit right now, right? I don't think I've skipped a day or something. I think this is correct. I might be going crazy then. I thought you streamed last night. You're the one who's going crazy. You're looking to get a pre-built? Yeah, we will begin the PC gaming discussion when more people get in here. But long story short, I need to build some redundancy in my drawing setup, and I would also like to be able to play video games without my poor gaming laptop from becoming 10 million degrees and overheating, so... What chat requests? Sketches for free? I was gonna do chat requests, sketches for free because I didn't really feel like doing any of the requests I have on hand, but you guys took too much time, so now I started doing one of the Patreon requests, so you missed your chance. If you had come in and immediately was like, here's a great idea for you to draw, I would have been like, sounds good, but the new Overwatch character, Demon Lady, man, Overwatch really is just kind of like always just years behind Paladins, isn't it? I never understood why Paladins was always in that like secondary spot, even though they had better gameplay and it was free before Overwatch and it had better characters, hotter characters. I think it is really just the Blizzard drones are just like, oh my god, I will play whatever shit Blizzard puts on my table. I forgot Paladins existed. When Overwatch was still popular, I was like, wait, let me check out this other game. I didn't really like Overwatch that much, but this game is free, let me play it, and I liked Paladins way more. Brand loyalty 1 at that time? Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that applies anymore. It probably still applied with Diablo 4 for like the brief week in which people were, by people, people is kind of a stretch when I say Blizz drones. They're not really people, they're, you know, subhumans, but when Diablo 4 came out and enough Blizz drones were like, I will literally pay my corporation, my favorite corporation, extra money so I can play it first. Years later, I got Diablo 4 in my PlayStation Plus monthly rewards. It was like, you can play it for free now, and I tried playing it, and I generally like ARPGs quite a lot, but I couldn't even get more than like 20 hours into it. It was like, I probably gave up after like 5 hours. It's just so boring. So boring. What the fuck? It's running third behind Marvel Rivals and Overwatch now. Don't forget the eternal Team Fortress 2 Coomers who will just keep on playing Scout on that same fucking level. until the fucking entire planet gets absorbed by the sun, until the heat death of the universe. Oh. I open up my YouTube, and in the music recommendations, because YouTube knows I play music at this time slot, I get a recommendation from the Count of Monte Fisto with 700 subscribers, who has uploaded the complete original soundtrack definitive OST of Final Fantasy X, and then he thought that he should stick in a poorly generated AI image of a Final Fantasy X landscape, but it's obviously AI, and the scale is painfully incorrect. This is kind of what we have in 2026. People uploading intellectual property that doesn't belong to them. But back in my day, people would just like fucking put in the original artwork because, you know, they were already stealing the music. It's not like this guy owns the rights to the IP in the first place. So why did he go through the extra step of being like, ChatGPT produced a Final Fantasy X image that I can put in the background? It's just like, why? What does this accomplish? Wasting water when you could just put Riku and call it a day? Grok, put this pre-teenager filthy Albed in the thong, brudda. Dun dun dun. Dun dun. I didn't remember this song, but I assume it's from like the Blitzball arena or something. What's up? How was the typhoon? Underwhelming. It was just a little bit of rain and wind. There were some things that were kind of flapping around a little, but that was about it. Lame. I'll get some more at some point. There aren't exactly rare occurrences in Japan. Don't worry, there'll be more where that motherfucker came from. Are they cold? What, the typhoons? No. They're more like humid. It's a low pressure front, so low pressure fronts aren't cold. They're mild and humid, and that's about it. This is for things that aren't typhoons in general as well. The times in which you get the coldest weather is high pressure fronts. Typhoons are for humid, sticky days and watching NHK and drinking Strong Zero. It is never a day in which you want to drink Strong Zero unless you want to say goodbye to Liver-chan. And cheap yakisoba. Yakisoba is always cheap. I don't think I've ever seen expensive yakisoba. If I can run to the Family Mart in time, I can get the horde of umeboshi onigiri. I have some bad news for you. Anybody who's like, I love Japanese konbini, if you actually are in Japan, you quickly realize that it's an extremely bad way to buy anything. Convenience stores, they used to be about like 10% or 20% more expensive than buying stuff in supermarkets. But right now they're like almost double the cost of if you just bought something in a supermarket. Sometimes like 2.5 times if you're buying supermarket stuff around closing time. Why did I make myself hungry? Ooh. So I'm next to this gigantic Ito Yokado, and if you know about Japanese corporations, Ito Yokado is the parent company of 7-Eleven, so they have all the shit that 7-Eleven has, and so a lot of the shit that 7-Eleven doesn't have. And because it's a supermarket, it's cheaper, way cheaper than if you're buying it at 7-Eleven. There's like Famichiki themed karaage in the supermarket that you can buy for like 1/5 the price when it's about at closing time and they have to throw everything away. If you like fried food in Japan, there really is a lot of ways in which for you to have a shit ton of fried food in your refrigerator if you are near the supermarket, because they all have they all make fried food, and because, you know, not everyone wants to fry their own shit, it's a lot of work, so... And they have to throw away the fried food at the end of the day. So it's been quite difficult for me when I have to resist the urge to be like, oh, this is a great deal, I should buy the value pack of karaage, half price. And it's like, you know, 300 yen for like a shit ton of fried chicken, and I'm like, yeah, this is a great deal. And then I realize I've been eating like fried chicken every fucking day for the last 2 weeks, and I'm like, this probably isn't good. Every day? I mean, not every day, but pretty fucking close, honestly. It's way more abundant than any other form of protein, unfortunately, so I guess I just need to buy a gas stove and start cooking myself, but for some reason that shit is like super expensive, I'm not sure why. Why is the gas stove so goddamn expensive? Dude, Naga, the serpent in a naked apron for gaming PC suggestions. I have had good luck with Main Gear and Sager, but both are US Sager's laptops. Well, I already have a gaming laptop, so we're not gonna get another gaming laptop. The reason why I was like, it's time to start thinking about a gaming PC is because I was, of course, exhausted from moving, so I was like, let's buy some video games. Cyberpunk sale on Steam, so I bought Synthetic 2. For those of you who don't know Synthetic 2, the only reason I knew about Synthetic 2 was because of hey guys, I forgot his name, the memeing dude had a video on it. It's an excellent video game. I'm enjoying it very much. However, Seth, that's his name, extremely popular. Anyways, my PC was working quite well once I reduced it all the way to. I reduced the game all the way to 900p. I was like, surely we can play it in 1080, and I could not play it in 1080, and it was still fucking overheating. The GPU temperature was getting super hot, and I was like, okay, let's reduce it all the way to 900. And it was running in the 70s, high 70s for a while. And I was like, okay, this is fine. But then last night, suddenly my laptop started like making insane fan noises and did a forced shutdown on me. So I guess my laptop is saying, you can't run this shit. Time to buy some RAM. What I don't need is a RAM. What I need is a PC that isn't trapped inside a tiny fucking box. That's what I actually need. The compute power isn't where the problem is coming from. It is the case. The fact that it's trapped inside this tiny little notebook. Are request suggestions still open? Not anymore. I was having difficulty getting any motivation, which is why I was like, I'll do some chat requests to get me going, but I was able to start working on a patron suggestion, and I was like, okay, I can muster the courage. Oh. I'm babysitting an obese cat and it has the most dainty meow, so when it attempts to jump on me, I keep falling over. Sounds like a skill issue. You need to work on your core and lower body strength so you can properly accept the aggressive charges of obese cat. Dogs are better than cats. I disagree. For the sole reason that I don't want to have to constantly pick up shit. Literal shit. Of course you have to pick up your cat shit as well, but it's not like the act of directly following around the dog and being like, did you poopy now? Let me take out my plastic bag to grab the still warm poop so I can take it home like it's a fucking treasure. And then you have to do that your entire life. I don't know. Kind of sounds like a shitty proposition to me. But consider releasing the hounds, checkmate pussy lovers. I mean, you could always be one of those weirdos that owns a fucking tiger. Although, I don't know even if you had like a pet tiger, I don't know if they would like conveniently release, you go and maul your enemies even if you released it. I feel like even if your pet wild animal cat is like hungry, they might not necessarily properly attack the small orphan child or whatever that you want to murder. How about instead of debating over which is better, cats or dogs, we can just reach the consensus that there's a clear winner in the whole thing, and that's owning live humans. Human slavery is probably the best pet. Humans are way more capable at a lot of things than dogs or cats. And you don't have to clean up their poop for them if you give them a toilet. Don't clip that, guys. Ball wants a gimp. I don't think gimps are actually slaves. They don't actually do any like service for you. If anything, you're the gimp's slave because you have to like service their fucking needs. When has anybody been like, oh thank God I have this gimp. I have a gimp in my fucking basement. That will be so helpful for my needs today. Yeah, that ain't happening. The gimp is fucking completely useless. The gimp is just completely happy in his little gimp corner doing gimp things, but he's not bringing any kind of value to your business. If you were applying to a job and you put on your skills, you'd be like, you put on your skills like, I'm a gimp. They wouldn't be like, oh man, this is definitely the type of person I want on my team. My skill is sitting in a corner in a rubber suit, doing nothing. Wait, what do you mean that isn't a skill? The Pulp Fiction store owner, he seemed to get value out of his gimp. I mean, if by value you mean sticking your cock in somebody, yeah. Kind of. You vastly underestimate the beatings. Friend worked as a dom, had to start as a sub, but rarely was fucking a thing. Isn't there just way more subs than doms? Just like in terms of the people who want to be one or the other, everybody wants to get serviced. No one wants to do the servicing. I don't know, man. Clients would piss on subs, so I'd speedrun to Dominatrix if I could. I didn't know there was that much overlap. I thought that if you were in the Dominatrix course, like that was a separate school from the people who are like, I need you to stick your hand up my asshole. I didn't know that there was so much overlap. Why are people into piss? When I'm saving a 500 image series AI generated hentai collection and there's a pissing scene, I just skip over those images. It does nothing for me. It's marking the territory? Yeah, but I don't want my territory that I've marked to be covered in my piss. Like if I'm marking my sexy anime waifu slave as my territory, now my territory is drenched in my own piss. I don't want my piss to be all over my anime waifu. I know, it's a controversial opinion. But some things are better when they're not covered in your own urine. And this is coming from someone who is pissing in his sink for like a year. I have not been pissing in my new sink, by the way, in my new apartment. We don't do that anymore. It was fun for a while, but we all have to grow up. Why not? Because I'm pissing in the toilet now. Baby must show restraint. You have to follow the rules of society even if you don't understand them. That means wearing black at a funeral. Not fucking the bridesmaid at a wedding. And not pissing in the sink. Piss in the shower, nodders. Piss in the sink, nopers. Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes. I'm not sure why. And then if you shit in the urinal, for some reason everybody gets super angry as well. How does that happen? All I did was just go to the public urinal and take a big poop in it. Why is everyone so angry at me? I don't understand. They just hate me because I'm superior to them. My pooping while standing up skills were too powerful. If you think about it, there's an entire country where the people ask that question of like, why can't we poop or pee here? And they all came to the same conclusion of there's no reason why we can't poop or pee here. Let's all just poop and pee here. So maybe showing restraint in where you poop and pee isn't that bad an idea. When you consider the end result of not caring. Wearing a chastity cage while commuting. I feel like wearing a chastity cage while commuting would also be kind of just backfire because I think people would think that it's your cock instead of you trying to prevent your boner. Nobody would believe you. If you get accused of being chikan, no one would believe you that like the bulge in your pants is actually your chastity cage or something instead of your cock. I guess you could wear one of those chastity cages that is like completely flattens your dick, but yeah. I did not know there was a whole chastity cage fetish porn industry until I was forced to draw multiple commissions for that one guy who has his entire futa femdom chastity cage universe. And he was like, let me specifically talk about which chastity cage which futa is wearing. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Well, here we go again. Oh God, I remember that? Yeah. He had his own universe tagged in the Rule 34 site. I forgot what it was called, and I'm sure that he tagged it himself. I'm pretty sure nobody was like collecting his images on the internet and being like, ah, I see the expanded Futa fuck Gakuen universe. Let me upload these to Rule 34. I'm sure he uploaded them himself. Seems like it defeats the purpose of futa. What? Having the futa females in cages? I don't know. I assume they're allowed to take their cages off at some point, but yes. So you can say release the futa cock. You can still say that even if you, well, whatever. I think we're rapidly approaching the point where release the Kraken memes will no longer be relevant to children of the younger generation. When you say release the Kraken, they'll be like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Release the Kraken meme year. Release the Kraken internet meme started in 2010. It was 16 years ago, guys. Haven't heard of that reference in a while. I think the last time I saw that reference was when like literal boomer politicians were using it. Like I'm pretty sure like Trump Social used release the Kraken memes the most recently. Out of touch millennial boomers being like, haha, my memes are still relevant. The 2010s are still recent, right, gang? I mean, 16 years ago, once you get to your 40s like I am, 16 years ago doesn't seem like a long time. Even when the teenagers that are making fun of you, for them, it's literally their entire life. When you were growing up in the 90s, the 80s seemed like just like an entire universe ago. I will say though that there was like a huge difference between 80s fashion and 90s fashion and stuff like that. The 80s, 70s were an iconic time. And then like the 90s were sort of ended up being the baseline in which I end up grading everything against, because that was like when I was entering my period of consciousness, I guess. But I feel like between 2010 and like 2026 we haven't really had that much changes, except like everything getting worse. Like, I don't think this is just me in rose-colored glasses. When I see the whole, like, people trying to bring the 2000s fashion back and stuff. I'm like, is it that different? Like 70s and 80s, they had a highly distinct fashion where if you try and wear 70s and 80s fashion today, it looks like you're wearing cosplay. But post 90s, shit started to get toned down. So even if you're wearing what would be considered 90s fashion, unless it's like super baggy Jeanco jeans or some shit like that, people aren't necessarily going to be like batting an eye at your stuff, especially women's fashion. At the local Japanese train station, they were like doing a 90s fashion what's the Japanese word in turn to English? Fair, I guess is, what were they fucking calling it? Anyways, they were doing like some sort of 90s fashion convenience store promotion campaign, and the image of the female was just like a woman wearing a turtleneck and like a mini skirt. And I was just like, is that different from today's fashion? Isn't that basically the same thing of what we've always been wearing in the past 10 years or so? Like, there's nothing like the 70s bell bottoms, although that came back in the 2000s, or like the 80s shoulder pads. The reason why everything in the 80s kind of looked ugly, or at least I definitely thought it looked ugly when I was growing up in the 90s, was because like they were making some very dramatic choices. All the women had those weird permanent curled hair. And, you know, the huge shoulder pads and shit like that. It certainly is a choice. They were making a lot of choices. The slopification of fashion, it do be like that. Microtrends also ensuring people don't cultivate their own styles. I feel like people who are cultivating their own styles in modern day and age are just trying to do stupid shit, and then everyone being like, oh my god, this person with a lot of Instagram followers is wearing something dumb that's so fashionable. I'm talking about you, Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook fashion. People be like, oh my god, Westbrook, he's so fashionable. Look, he's wearing a fucking top hat and a skirt. It's like, bitch, please. You just walked and you just put on random shit. This is actually one of his better looks, considering how stupid some of his fashion looks like. For one thing, if you're like 6'5" or whatever he is, and like super muscular, pretty much anything that you wear is gonna look good on you because the physical body itself is attractive. So pretty much any kind of Russell Westbrook fashion is kind of meaningless. The fucking skirts are just, you know, I feel just like he's just trying to figure out what he can get away with. You mean Russell Westbank, the newest player of Tel Aviv's basketball team? Is he on Tel Aviv right now? Did he get his a fucking contract? I guess he does not have a contract. Yeah, I don't think he has any contracts right now. I've seen more interesting stuff. This is the most normie shit, to be honest. Bro, this guy's a professional basketball player. Of course he's a fucking normie. People can't handle actual, like, fucked up fashion. Personally, I liked NBA fashion the most in the time period in which David Stern was getting angry because he thought it was promoting like gang behavior and stuff, and they were trying to sell a black league to white consumers, and David Stern was all like, "You guys can't wear throwback jerseys. It's too thug-coded. The white boomers won't like it. You have to all wear suits." And then everyone were like, fine, and everyone started wearing Armani and shit like that because they all have a ton of money. And then, you know, we get to the point where fashion brands are all like, hurry, let's try and convince LeBron to wear our suit. We'll give the suit to him and hopefully he'll wear it, that type of shit. I don't know if they just straight up get paid. I think some of them are getting paid to wear specific clothing brands. Who wore the meat dress the best? Whoever escaped all the wolves that attacked them. I won't be impressed with your fashion until someone develops the technology to have like a fully sentient living creature that you can wear, like the meat dress, except it's still alive. Until we have tentacle armor that molests you while you're wearing it, I'm not going to be interested in your fashion. Tentacle armor is still the peak of fashion statements. You mean how they blamed Malice in the Palace on hip-hop culture and tried to ban literal streetwear? Detroit gonna Detroit. It do be like that. Honestly, I don't think it's that big a deal to have NBA players running into the stands and fighting fans. I think it's cool. And I think everybody who's signing up to go to the game enjoys it as well. If you don't want NBA players diving into your face, why are you paying $3,000 for front row seats in which at any point, you know, somebody's fat ass... Who's the current fattest player in the NBA? We no longer have Big Baby. Some NBA player's fat ass can land on your face when they're trying to save the ball, and you're paying the most money for those fucking seats. So how is that much different from the possibility of Ron Artest running into the stands and beating your ass? It's a live experience. I got a Prada bag to commemorate not being super poor and the hardware chipped. I pledge never to fuck with new designer purchases. Can you just like resell it? Maybe not if it's chipped. In general, I just believe that buying anything expensive is you're just kind of asking for it, you know, because there's no guarantee that you're going to get quality that reflects the price. That's kind of the problem, I think. I'd rather take my chances on buying something that's extremely cheap and it might break very quickly than my chances on buying something very expensive and it turns out that despite its expensive price that it's not actually high quality, because I think both happen at pretty equal frequencies. Like you can buy a used object and it can last you for quite a while and be just fine, just as often as you can buy something that's new and you can have like some really questionable quality even though it's supposed to be like a luxury product. Meta Artist, you mean? You mean Meta World Peace. Guys, Ron Artest changed his name to World Peace. That means he's renounced violence. You know somebody's super violent or someone like does something a lot if they have to like try and change their name to cut their impression so that people don't think of them that way. Like Ron Artest trying to rename himself Meta World Peace because he got in so many fights that now he has to tell people that he's peaceful. Or Snoop Dogg trying to rename himself Snoop Lion because he's got into Rastafarianism and he's not into that. Well, I guess he never claimed to not be into smoking weed, but I guess he was trying to claim that he was a different person or something. I don't fucking understand the whole Snoop Lion arc. It would be like if Jeffrey Epstein renamed himself Jeff Never Fuck Kids to remind people that he never has sex with children. If you have to convince people that your nature isn't like that, then maybe your nature is like that. Snoop just sprinkled the word Zion over music with a repetitive beat. What is it about Rastafarianism and Zion? Why do they have to mention Zion like 10 trillion times in every single one of their songs? I don't understand. What's going on there, chat? It's like when Kat Von D went Christian. I don't even know who that is. As usual, Hystrixia name dropping people that I have no fucking idea what she's talking about. Kat Von D, professionally as Kat Von D, a Mexican-born American tattoo artist, television personality. She looks like she's compensating for her weird head shape by being a goth mommy. We can see from this photo that for her to be considered to be traditionally attractive, her head is too long and her eyes and nose are too close to the center, and then the gap between the end of her nose and her lips and then her chin is too like long as well. So in order to compensate for this is especially prominent for like photos like this, you can really tell. In order to compensate for this, a good strategy, which she is doing, is to use the hair to frame the face. If you have the bowl cut, and then if you have the sides it can really obscure the general shape of your face, and then you can of course have a shit ton of makeup. That's just 101. if you're a woman, is just like get bangs and then like side bangs as well. And then nobody can like, people just assume the best of your facial features. Shill tattoo artist. She was trying to harass me that no one would buy the table. Like, wench, I will keep my green marble coke sniffing table, get the fuck out. There was a tattoo artist on the Japanese YouTube going around yesterday. He had like very few followers, but one of his videos was getting a lot of viral recognition, and the video was him basically saying, let me talk about people who get tattoos. Do you think that people who get tattoos are stupid? Do you think that people who get tattoos in Japanese society are idiots? You're 100% right. Everybody who shows up at my Japanese tattoo store are fucking Yankee loser delinquents who are like, I got 5,000 yen. Can you do a tattoo of a gigantic dragon all over my back? And he's like, no, you fucking retard. I will not do you a dragon tattoo that takes up like your entire back for 5,000 yen. This had like 1 million views. Everybody in Japanese society was like, my biases against people who have tattoos were completely right. Thank you for confirming the fact that everybody who gets a tattoo in Japan is an idiot tattoo artist, son. Among the many types of helpful information he gave us in that video, one of his things was he was like, stupid people in Japanese society, they really like 5,000 yen for some reason. Not 10,000 yen, it's like 5,000 yen. So a lot of them seem to ask him to do tattoos for 5,000 yen for some reason. And people in the comments were like, maybe Baka like 5,000 yen because like 10,000 yen is too expensive for them. So they're like, maybe I can get it done for like 5,000. Like for them, in their mind, 5,000 is a lot of money, even if it's not in anybody else's mind. So they're like, maybe I can like get it done for 5,000 instead of 10,000. It's an interesting concept. Anyways, face tattoos are a huge litmus test. Think of face tattoos in Western society, where you can get away with having tattoos in Western society and without getting shunned pretty easily. Think of having a face tattoo in Western society as getting a tattoo in general in Japanese society. Because pretty much the vast majority of Japanese institutions can just straight up refuse service to you if you have any kind of tattoo, even a small one, wherever on your body. They could just be like, no, we're not letting you in, and that's completely legal. So what this means is people who get tattoos in Japanese society are people who they don't have enough brains to take 5 seconds to think, maybe I shouldn't do this. It's going to be a huge net negative on my life going forward. So that's why it's the equivalent of basically getting a face tattoo in America. I did unlock the achievement of dating a man with a face tattoo, and it was as miserable of an experience as you'd expect. I guess the question is, what kind of face tattoo? What if it was like a super cringe anime face tattoo? I can never go in public onsen. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you have like a tiny tattoo or a massive tattoo. You're still in the same I have tattoo category, which means you just need to find a onsen where they don't care that you have tattoos and that foreigners can go to. And I think there's quite a few of them nowadays if you actually want to go to onsen, because there's so much foreign business now. There's all these Euros with tattoos. If you want to go to onsen, you just have to find specifically the one that is okay with it. But I remember I was lifeguarding at a public pool for a brief period in time in 2010. And among the many things that we were told to look out for, besides the whole people drowning part, was we were supposed to look out for people with tattoos. And there was a dude with a pretty significant tattoo. So I was told to tell the manager if we had people with tattoos. So I told him, and the manager was gonna go and like walk up to him and like tell him to like either put on some kind of like anti-tattoo guard. I can't remember which it was, or ask him to leave. But then the dude like walked out of the pool and he put on like a jacket or something. And then the manager was like, "Oh, I can't talk to him now that he's covered it up with a jacket, because you can't ask people to like take off your jacket apparently." And I assumed that the dude with the tattoo was like sensitive enough to his like solid snake radar turned on, and he was like, "Oh, someone has noticed that I have a tattoo." It was a pretty big fucking tattoo, so I don't know how you wouldn't notice. But someone noticed I have a tattoo, I have to cover it up. But think about this shit. You have to live your life having to deal with, like, you know, managers walking up to you and being like, "You have to cover that shit." What a waste of time. There's a lot of better things you want to be doing with your life in Japanese society. Can the Yakuza get away with it? The Yakuza have their own society, so they have their own bathhouses and stuff. But I bet if I look online right now for Japanese onsen that allow for people with tattoos, a bunch will show up, because there's enough tourists now. Japanese onsen that allow for people with tattoos. Boom. Tattoo friendly onsen. There's literally a .com fucking website with a fucking AI image. 136 tattoo friendly onsen you can visit worry free. Oh, there are private baths, that's true. Thank God we have AI so we can create these extremely nondescript, vague images of Tokyo and Kyoto and stuff like that. In bigger cities, they don't care, especially Osaka. It's if you go to a ryokan, they're very traditional. It's more like, I feel like Japan is just like, if they have rule, everybody has to fucking follow the rule at all times, and nobody changes the rule because they're conservative, as in like they just don't change things. Look at it in prefecture-based. Hyogo 24, hint, Osaka, Hyogo. Oh, I guess Osaka is separate, but the Kansai area, full of the Kansai Yakuza, unsurprisingly, has a shit ton of stuff. Taketorite Maruyama, private bathing allowed. They don't actually have photos of any of the places. Instead, we get this extremely vague AI recreation of the situation. Why can't they just fucking post photos? What is this shit? Kinnoyu Onsen. Look at this bald ass Yakuza dude. I don't know, that looks pretty nice. All of these places look nice if they're not full of people. As someone who hates being around other human beings, I would love to go to onsen or whatever if I didn't have to deal with the existence of other humans. However, good luck with that. Good luck with finding one. I don't like public baths anyway, so private rules. I also don't like onsen, period, because a lot of times the water quality doesn't sit well with my sensitive skin. There was a popular local onsen in my previous apartment location in Ashia, and I went there once, and the onsen water quality made my skin itchy, so I had to take a bunch of like baths after I got back from the onsen. I'm like, yeah, this ain't it. We ain't doing this, doc. Also, the onsen was full of old dudes, of course, as it always is. So that was not an enjoyable experience. It was very stressful. Put another thing on the list of things that the Asperger person does not enjoy. Buzzkrill, thanks for the sub. I appreciate the support. He subscribed at tier 1 for 6 months in advance. Does that mean you just paid for like 6 months in one shot? That's a lot of money to throw at a streamer, as someone who has literally never given any streamer any money at any point in my life, because I'm cheap as fuck and also don't know how to use the financial system that Twitch provides with me. I appreciate the support. I'm spending a lot of money on stuff like washing machines right now, so that means you have to stream for 6 months. Yeah, I will be definitely streaming for 6 months. I have no friends, so I need to talk to people in some way, whether it's a therapist or whatever. So I'm in a country where Twitch sub is cheap. Interesting. 6 months straight, no stopping. I mean, I don't think my lifestyle is going to change in 6 months, so the point where I stop streaming will be the point in which I get serialized in a Japanese magazine or something, and I have to hit the deadlines. But we're far, far away from that happening, so that won't be happening anytime soon. Latest Yaineko episode was about the mangaka meeting her deadline. Yeah, Yaineko, that is about the part where I stopped reading the manga because I was like, okay, they're running out of content. When mangaka start writing mangaka related content in their manga, it means they're out of things to write about. And they don't have time to go and like research new content. That's my general opinion of that stuff. My general opinion is that people should not make media that involves navel gazing about their own like work, basically. It's just like jacking off, honestly. You mean like in JoJo Part 4? I mean, JoJo Part 4 isn't really about making manga. it has like 5 seconds of actual manga related stuff, and everything else is like, what? I've been trapped inside the page or something. I can't fucking remember what the enemy stand user's power was. I often complain about Spielberg in this stream, but when Spielberg's latest movie was just like an autobiographical movie about like a young kid who grows up to want to make movies or some shit, I was just like, Jesus Christ, you're really out of ideas, aren't you? You're just sucking your own cock now. I mean, he's like 90, yeah, which is probably why he's out of ideas. On the other hand, I've always had a lot of problems with Spielberg. I think the one point in which I was undoubtedly 100% done with him was when I started watching Catch Me With You If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio, and in the first like 10 minutes of the movie, it starts off with like the sympathetic sob story of the main character about how he has like a sick mother or some shit like that, and how like he's, you know, scamming people, but he really has a heart of gold. And this went on for like a solid like 5 minutes, and I was like, fuck this. If you feel so strongly that you need to establish what a good guy this person is, like, I'm fucking done. If we can't even have a fun movie about like committing crimes, then like, what's the fucking point? I just felt like that was just a I can never go back moment in terms of when Spielberg's movie making needs and like my needs as a viewer were different, and I was just like, all right, I'm fucking done with you, dude. His movies are very sappy, but he did make some good stuff. A lot of their, I mean, it's hard to deny Spielberg's like his best works, but the stuff that I don't like, I absolutely fucking despise. Which I can't say that for a lot of, like, I hate what I hate of Spielberg movies way more than like I complain about Christopher Nolan a lot. But I hate the Spielberg movies I don't like way more than I hate anything made by Christopher Nolan. It would be interesting how what I would feel about, say, Schindler's List or something if I watched it today. Would I be like, God damn it, why are you being so upset about all this, like, you know, genocide shit? So fucking sappy. As usual, Spielberg overreacting with the whole, like, you know, gas chambers stuff. Nolan is consistent, at least. He's consistent in liking time bullshit, that's for sure. Every Nolan movie is like, but what if we were in a dream inside a dream inside a dream, which was a portal to go back in time using your mind? Except maybe Dunkirk, but I haven't seen Dunkirk, so I don't even know. I'm sure there's elements of time in Dunkirk. How can there not be? It's how they're running out of time to save the British lads. Tenet, which is just impossible to understand nonsense. Tenet is one of those situations where it's like, the king is wearing no clothes kind of situation, in which they're like, this is a movie that stupid people can't understand. So then everybody who watches it is like, well, I'm not stupid, so I definitely understand what's going on. 10 stars, 10 out of 10, perfect movie, makes total sense. You might be too dumb to understand the complex mechanics of simultaneous time compression shit. But I definitely understand what's going on. The face when you want to rip off Satoshi Kon but you can't. Satoshi Kon is... The thing about it is that, like, Satoshi Kon isn't particularly deep either, right? It's all like, it's a dream, blah, blah, blah. Or it's not clear whether this is like in someone's mind or actually happening in the real world. It's just that the anime medium, it carries so much, like the style carries so much. It doesn't really matter if the mechanics are original and stuff. Style is way more important than substance. And Satoshi Kon has some of the best style. Kon at least knew how to use his animation talents to expertly convey his ideas. Also, Satoshi Kon had characters that were uber sexy. Something that you can't really say about, you know, any kind of The Dark Knight or stuff. I guess people want to fuck Heath Ledger, but... In other words, you need talent, which most of these hacks who failed upwards can't. I mean, Christopher Nolan is talented. He's just talented in a direction that I don't appreciate. And that's okay. Not everything has to be made for you. If I was gonna list, like, directors that I think legitimately don't have any talent but still keep on getting jobs, it would be someone like Michael Bay. I don't understand why this chat keeps on defending fucking Michael Bay Transformers. Is it because it was the movie of your childhood or something? Not only is like literally everything that is appealing of any kind of Michael Bay movie just like the special effects department doing all the work for him. It's also like even the special effects is just kind of a mess of particles everywhere all the time. Don't lump me in with Michael Bay defenders. We had a bunch of Michael Bay defenders the last time I was shitting on Michael Bay in the stream, and I was just like, why? Why are you guys defending his stuff? I don't understand. I guess it is just me. I enjoyed it as an 8-year-old, but I'm not defending that shit. It's also too long. I can't remember which Transformers movies I've seen. I might have seen like 10 minutes of like all of them, but haven't seen the entire movie for any of them. There's no why, no thought process required, just enjoy the robot scrotus and dog sex. But I want some amount of thought process in my movies. That doesn't allow me to turn off my brain, it just makes me feel numb and annoyed. I don't find that to be fun. The brain doesn't like being completely empty. That's why it's so hard for people to like turn off their second screen content, or why it's hard to go to like a Zen temple and they're like, try and not think of anything, and you're like, but that's so hard, I can't not think of anything, and like you have to think of nothing. It's like, oh, how do I do that? So maybe there's a bunch of people that can watch Michael Bay movies and that amount of nothing is okay with their brain and it doesn't bother them. But for me, a pleasurable experience usually involves some amount of brain power. I will only thank Michael Bay for making Pearl Harbor just because Trey Parker made a song shitting on it. True. The shitting on Pearl Harbor song is better than the movie itself and pretty much anything Michael Bay has made. Why is it so damn quiet? I think the fact that they show the actual puppet driving around in the real world scale environments is what really makes it. It's the German version too. Interesting. This is just the kind of pop corny sang speak I don't get because of cultural barrier. To understand Team America, you not only had to be an American, but you also need to have watched a bunch of American media in the 70s and 80s and stuff, which I'm sure a lot of the younger generation hasn't done the due diligence of watching like shitty 80s action movies and stuff that they would need to, so it probably doesn't really register for a lot of them. This is absolute classic in my house. Every night I watch puppet sex before I go to bed. The AIDS song. AIDS, AIDS, AIDS. We all have AIDS. See, I haven't seen Rent, so I didn't really understand it was a Rent reference until later. I thought it was just like a silly joke on about Broadway. I didn't know there was an entire musical based around everybody getting AIDS. I thought Rent was literally about having to pay rent. I didn't know it was about the AIDS epidemic. Only a woman can touch me there. If you remember that goddamn Toby Keith post-September 11th song, Team America will resonate with you. True. I unironically still like Toby Keith. I think he did a great job of capturing the stupidity of post-9/11 American conservatives being like, yeah! Say what you will about post-September 11th American conservatism, they at least had something they could rally around, which was like, we're gonna fucking kill Saddam for all he did attacking America. And then you would remind them that Saddam hadn't attacked America. They'd be like, what are you talking about, you fucking liberal? As people in this stream like to point out, the current version of the American conservatard doesn't even have that. They got all rallied up about, you know, stopping the pedophiles in politics in the deep state, and then when the literal pedophile list came out, they were like, yeah, we're good. Trump says everything has been released. I think we're done. I wonder why DNF Duel didn't catch on. Not enough versions of Goku in it. If only they had Goku Blanco in it, people would still be playing. I legitimately don't understand. The truth is that there can only be so many fighting games. The fighting game population is not that high, and it ends up taking up a lot of your time. And once you get below a certain threshold in the number of players, it's very hard to maintain people's interest because they're like, it takes too much time to get a match. The games suck. Literally everyone could touch of death combo you. Also, the balance was ass. Wasn't it made like super simple because they were trying to be faithful to the original game, which is for brain dead Koreans? The thing is that we've gone through this whole dance of fighting games being too difficult and not approachable, quote unquote, unapproachable. So then like fighting game companies, the developers will be like, here's a really easy fighting game. We've tried to make it as easy as possible. And then it doesn't catch on because it turns out that the people who are complaining about fighting games being unapproachable are not the people who want to play fighting games in the first part. There isn't like any kind of huge hidden audience of people who want to pick up fighting games but don't want to do it because it's too difficult. The people who want to play fighting games are all willing to put in the time to play fighting games, and the people who are like, it's too difficult, they're just not going to play it in the first place. Me being part of the latter, I just want to goon to the female characters. For me, the core appeal of fighting game is getting Milia to jump and then pausing the game while she's in air so I can look at her underwear. You can't make a fighting game for casuals. That's the thing. No matter how simple the mechanics of a fighting game are, if it's like PvP and it's a 1 versus 1 PvP, your ass is gonna get beat by people who are better at the game. So then the casuals can't fucking handle that. Their ego getting torched again and again. That's why they all play MOBAs, or at least they used to play MOBAs. Now they're playing like, I don't know, team shooters or something instead. The whole point of team games isn't that people like cooperating with other people. They like blaming their team so that they don't have to come to terms with the fact that they're not good at the video game when they lose. They could just be like, shit matchmaking. We would have won if everybody had followed my direction and properly allowed me to get space so I could DPS. This is the core mentality of video game players. Only a very small subset of people are actually committed to putting in the work to getting good at something, which is what you need to do to be enjoying fighting games, unfortunately. They tried to make a fighting game for casuals. It was called Tekken 8. Look where that went. I mean, they've made fighting game for casuals way before Tekken 8. I think Tekken 8 is just like they don't know what they're doing in general. But, anybody remember Dive Kick? Dive Kick was the ultimate example of this. Of, like, taking it to the extreme of what if we made fighting games and just broke them down into their most simplified parts. For those of you who don't know Dive Kick, it was a fighting game that was entirely around performing the dive kick motion, and it basically had two buttons. One was a jump button and the other was a dive kick button, and that was fucking it. No combos, nothing. And I remember I was watching Evo and they had a dive kick tournament, and I think it was a girl. Some girl showed up and she was like, I'm gonna play in this tournament setting, and she absolutely got destroyed in this 2-button fighting game, and she went home like looking like she was about to cry because she just got fucking destroyed and she didn't know how to deal with the ego smash. And this is the easiest, most simple fighting game you could ever conceive. And I was just like, yeah, this is why fighting games will never really catch on. As long as it's a 1 versus 1 PvP format, people can expose you for being fraudulent, and there's no way around it. And it's a very painful experience for getting exposed for being part of the land of the free. Which is why, you know, people would rather, like, play a MOBA and be like, oh, there's all these Brazilians in this matchmaking scene. It's not my fault I lost. Oof. It was also a girl. This is another, it was also an example of why girls will never be as prominent in any kind of competitive medium as men, even if it's a non-physical medium. They just don't enjoy conflict enough. There was a women-only Evo event. Every time esports, video game esports are like, we're gonna have a female team. Esports, women don't have to run or jump or do actions that are limited with their physical body, not having as much muscles and being weighed down by all their baby-making parts in non-esports. Now they can compete in this virtual environment, and we will show how good women are at this thing, and it turns out that no, they're not. And there's lots of like explanations of why this is the case, whether it's like their ability to judge spatial awareness, blah blah blah, but ultimately it just comes down to they probably just don't care enough about playing their stupid video game as dudes do, and you can't convince enough women to care enough about it for them to ever become like a female sports league or any kind of league. What does BB think of young ladies don't play fighting games, anime/manga? You mean cute girls doing cute things, manga? Because there's a million of those. There's always a fat, sweaty retard who wastes hundreds of hours to master that shit. You see this in all sorts of games, non-physical games, besides video games as well, where it's not even the fat, sweaty retards. like chess and shogi and stuff like that. They keep on being like, okay, we have a female league, but any female, if they want to compete against the men, they can compete against the men. And none of them ever do, because if they do, they lose. JP girls play Taekwondo? Yeah. A little bit. Although their most famous of the female Tekken players has now become a Twitch meme lord who got in trouble recently for it, people finding out that she had a boyfriend all this time. She was getting a lot of views from being like, I understand you loser incels, I'm here for you. And then it turned out she had a boyfriend all that time, and people are like, you betrayed me, see? And I was just like, ha ha ha, LMAO. Anybody that assumes a female doesn't have a boyfriend is just, you're barking up the wrong tree. You should always, always, always assume that women have boyfriends. Especially if they're capable of talking. The ones that legitimately don't have boyfriends probably are such massive failures that they can't even like mumble a coherent sentence, so. I like how Twitch gave me a pop-up to ask if I was sure to send that message because it contained the word retard. Yeah, we use retard a lot on this stream. I asked in the beginning if I was allowed to use retard without getting banned by Twitch, and everyone was like, yes. I was like, okay, we're gonna spam the R word quite a bit. Fuck you, Sarah Palin. I don't care if you have a disabled son. That doesn't mean you get to take away my R word. Tekken's Tanukana got canceled for her comments. Ironically, she was only speaking the truth. That's who I was talking about when I was saying Tekken's female streamer. I was talking about Tanukana. Tanukana was just saying the truth. She said that you don't have human rights if you're not 170 centimeters tall as a man. And she's 100% correct. I don't know why everybody got angry about that. Short men are one of the most universally made fun of people on the fucking planet. And pointing that out should not get her in trouble. She didn't say short people don't deserve to have human rights. She said they don't have rights, which is a different thing. Ironically, after that, she became more famous because she got dropped, and then she made a brief career out of streaming. I don't know what she's doing right now, but she was streaming primarily to the incels that she was making fun of, being like, I'm your, I understand you. This isn't pretty obvious if you don't know Japanese, but Tanukana is legitimately good at speaking off the cuff. She had a lot of great clips where she said, you know, well thought out things. This is wrong. The lines have to actually be connected. So this line goes here. And this line here, this needs to go like this. The difficulty of drawing the three-dimensional form. What I find truly weird is why doesn't Tekken try and fix their game if half of their fan base is so fucking angry about not having any defense? There was another Tekken female player. There's actually quite a few. Tanakana was just the most famous one. Because they can't, this was their vision for the game, endless stance, offense, and heat. At best they can fix it in Tekken 9. Yeah, but when Tekken 8 came out, it wasn't this bad. They changed it in a patch and everyone got angry. Like, it already had heat and stuff when it came out, but it wasn't like at the point where everybody was review bombing it. They could just go back to the original state of Tekken 8 and it would be, people wouldn't be as angry. It was bad, just not as this catastrophic. Even if we went back to the first patch, the game would still be giga ass. I played a little bit of Tekken 7. I have not touched Tekken 8. I played a little of Tekken 6. Tekken 6 also famous for being kind of ass, though. And it didn't really kill the game, ultimately, did it? I remember I was watching... I forgot whether it was an Evo, but... I believe it was Tekken 6, or maybe Tekken Tag. One of the later Tekken Tag tournaments. And like literally everybody had Bob, that fucking fat fuck, on their team because Bob was so good. And I was just like, damn, this game fucking sucks when the meta is the fat guy. I don't want to live in this world. They left Soul Calibur 6 to die with bad netcode, I guess. Ultimately, I wonder what percentage of this is... Like, Street Fighter 6 is super popular right now, right? I wonder how much total population we have of, like, fighting game players. This is a legitimate question, right? It's kind of hard to... If you're really good, like Justin Wong, let's go Justin, you can easily play a shit ton of different fighting games. But most people don't have time to play more than one or two at a time and keep up with all these new characters and patches and stuff. So I do wonder if there is just kind of like a critical mass, and you can't really have... There's only so many fighting game players, and there's only so much room for fighting games, is kind of what I wonder. Street Fighter 6 is only good because it had to be after the disaster of Street Fighter 5. As someone who cares a lot about visual presentation, the presentation of Street Fighter 6 I find way more annoying than that of Street Fighter 5. That's kind of the problem for me. I really, really don't like how Street Fighter 6 looks. I see a lot of people complaining about things like the slime of Street Fighter 6, people calling it Slime Fighter. People really don't like the being able to eliminate neutral by being able to dash and stuff like that. People can just like dash into everything, but I feel like this is just, that's more of the problem where Street Fighter, there's always people who look at the previous versions of Street Fighter with rose-colored glasses. Like, whenever you're on the current version of Street Fighter, there's all these people being like, man, remember Street Fighter 3? Now that was a real fighting game. I was like, I actually do remember Street Fighter 3. It almost, like, killed fighting games as a whole because it was supposed to be such a big thing. And there was, like, a huge precipitous drop-off in number of players during Street Fighter 3. It was kind of when the arcades had been dying, but netcode hadn't, like, begun as well. So that didn't help. But, like, people legitimately did not really want to play Street Fighter 3, and now we just like look back on Street Fighter 3 as like the pinnacle of sprite artwork and stuff like that. But yeah, it was not popular at the time. Third Strike is the best one. Third Strike also has horrible balance, for example, because it's before they could have balance patches. If you watch any of the Third Strike tournaments, it's literally just like Chun-Li and Ken, and then everybody who's playing the other characters is doing it because they love the character, not because they're viable, and so on. Makoto Yun, I mean, we don't need to debate this. The Street Fighter 3 tier list has been like hard set for the last 20 years. It's Yun, Ken, Chun-Li at the top tier. And then below that, what do you have? I can't remember. You have like Ryu and Akuma and so on. Need Makoto in Street Fighter 6 now. If there is no tomboy I can masturbate to, what is the point of playing the game? Am I right, fellow tomboy Coomer Chads? You still get Hugo players in top 8? Yeah, never be like, you can't win this fighting game with this ass character because it's happened so many times. We had Rangchu winning the literal Tekken championships with fucking Kuma, proving that Tekken tier lists meant nothing. We just had a Lilith win with Vampire Savior and Evo. So it shows that if you stick with your character forever, good things happen, I guess. However, off the top of my head, I still can't remember any grapplers winning any major tournaments. Not tournaments, but like world championship level stuff. Can any of you remember like a big body character in any of the fighting games? Literally any fighting games, like winning it all? Because I can't. Like, has there been any Zangief wins? They don't win the big tourneys. I know, people complain about Zangief being overpowered and shit like that because it makes them so angry when they get SPD'd. But I have yet to see any kind of like Zangief or Zangief-esque character, grappler, big body, big hit points, that type of character archetype win anything ever. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. They win the small side tourneys. Yeah, I know Snake Eyes won a side tourney for Street Fighter 2 with Zangief, and that was a big deal at the time. But like, no matter how strong these grappler characters get, like they never seem to win the big tourneys ever. So maybe they need to be buffed even more. The Potemkin had to win something? I don't know. I don't remember any like BlazBlue or Guilty Gear wins either. The closest I've seen was, I think there was someone with a bunch of grapplers in his KOF team. I can't remember which year it was. I think it was one of the Mexicans won. But KOF is a little different, right? Because you have 3 characters. Goro is top tier in KOF 98. Yeah, this was like KOF 13, I think, the one I wish I saw him, but KOF has some top tier grapplers, I believe. Shermie make go burr. I mean, Shermie is a throw character, but she doesn't have the big body. I mean, part of the reason why the big body archetype is difficult is because you have a larger hurt box, right? In general, the bigger you are as a character, even if you have more hit points, it can often be a huge problem. This is why Pet Shop is considered to be one of the ultimate Kusoge characters of all time. For those of you who don't know, Pet Shop is the fucking bird in JoJo's All-Star Battle. Not All-Star Battle, what was it called? The Part 3 game. This fucker. Heritage for the future, that's right. So, as you can see, he's fucking tiny, and he's flying, and he gets to shoot projectiles at you the entire time. And there's a bunch of parts of how he's built that makes him even worse, but just like the basis of we're gonna have like a tiny little flying character that can just like shoot shit at you is just like the ultimate do not do it in fighting game character design. Apparently at the time, if you went to a Japanese arcade and you were just sitting at the arcade cabinet and you were playing Pet Shop, people just wouldn't show up and try and challenge you. They would just be like, avoid him. It was literally a way to lose all of your friends because people would just be like, I'm not playing with you. People would just be like, I'm taking the ball and going home instead of trying to play against this fucking bird. He's kind of like the opposite of what Zangief is, and he's just like considered to be one of the most nightmarish characters to play against of all time, so It shows you why the big body archetype is so difficult to implement and actually win with. Although, didn't we just have a big esports competition in which we had like big Zangief players in top 8? I don't think a Zangief player won, but I was seeing some YouTube recommendations for me of some Japanese Zangief players. The Big Eve player got eliminated? Yeah. This was like a Saudi tournament, right? I wasn't paying attention. I can't pay attention to... There's too many esports tournaments now. There are already quite a few, but they really increased the number, so I can't be following all of them every day. Anyone playing Marvel Tokone, by the way? Haven't heard anything about the game since it came out. It's not dead, but it's not doing like DBZ numbers, that's for sure. I was watching some of the footage of Marvel Tokone, and it made me think like Arc System Works is really, really good at doing that like 3D style, but making it look like 2D. But yet, when you compare it to, say, the Marvel vs. Capcom 1 sprites, it's so deficient. A lot of it just doesn't look that great. It really shows you that Marvel vs. Capcom 1, I consider it to be like kind of the pinnacle of art design, honestly. I can't remember who the Capcom artist was, but I don't think I've ever seen any characters. Something about the drawing style and then the sprite style. I don't think anything has looked ever as good as that. That's just my personal biases, but I just think it looks insanely good. Like, it's the perfect, like, the shape language of each of the characters. Shape language is something you talk about a lot when you talk about, like, character design. The shape language of, like, Venom and stuff is just absolutely perfect. Like, just the sort of general roundness of everything. Like, it's both round and sharp. Same thing for the sprites. Venom has never looked as good as he's looked in Marvel vs. Capcom. I often say that my favorite versions of art is usually the Japanese reinterpretation of Western media properties, like Japanese reinterpretation of Dungeons & Dragons, for example. But MVC 1 is the same thing for, like, Marvel. Whenever I'm asked to draw Morrigan, I always go to the MVC 1 Morrigan. I've never thought Morrigan looks better than this shot right here. Just the shape language of the legs and the general stance and stuff. There's something about the balance of the form that I don't think has ever been emulated in anything else, where it's just like, it's just the right amount of stylization. And the way the hair is just like one block, but it also, you can feel the strands as well. I wish I could draw like this, but unfortunately I cannot. Considering fighting game boomers PC specs is disaster. Is it hard to run? Fighting games should not be hard to run. You should just be able to, like, turn off the backgrounds and get it to run at 60 frames per second. It's on Unreal Engine 5. Unreal Engine 5, people insisting on using Unreal Engine 5 because I'm assuming Unreal Epic Games forces them to or something, has been a disaster for video game development. Why aren't people just like, fuck this, I'm using Unreal Engine 4? Unreal Engine 4 was just fine for everything. Why does everyone have to try and run shit on 5 when we all know it has like a million different problems? As usual, shit is getting worse. Everything looked fine on Unreal Engine 4 and there were never like performance issues, and now everything is like a huge being like, oh, why does it have so many problems? It's Unreal Engine 5 as usual. Every single fucking time. I used to watch the flash screen for that game at the arcade a lot for her. Back in the day when you couldn't just look at images of stuff on your phone immediately and you had to like wait for the arcade machine to show you images of Kitana because you wanted to go home and jack off. You're like, I just need to see 3 seconds of my favorite fighting game female so I can go home and masturbate, please. I don't have any coins though because I'm a child. Please, Mortal Kombat-san, just show me one image of Kitana getting speared. I just need to see my favorite girl get her head chopped off. Now you can just go onto YouTube and watch, like, you know, whatever Mortal Kombat female character getting murdered 300 times. Not age restricted, by the way. What did I step into? What we were masturbating to as a young teenager, that's what. The fatalities meant something back then because not everybody knew how to do them. And you couldn't just like, you know, watch a YouTube compilation of it. Now you can just be like, MK11 Kitana, all fatalities. Excuse me, fellow Leona Chads. Oh wait, this is the one where she's getting, she's the one who's doing it. Excuse me, I need to masturbate here. Ah, thank God, there's an entire MK11 Leona playlist. First person view of fatalities? Oh, thank God. I need to see this woman get her entrails pulled out in first person. They literally just call the playlist Yona. Pretty funny. What the fuck? Is that her skull coming out of her abdomen? Is Strixia gonna favorite that vid? It doesn't have as much dismemberment as you might think. Jesus Christ. I heard that people got, the developers got PTSD when they were making this stuff, and you can see why. Oh, it's playing again in the background. Hold on, I have to turn off. Oh God, they're sticking a drill in her head. Too much of a good thing? Yeah, man, there's no scarcity anymore. It used to be you didn't know how to do the fatalities, so when some dude beat your ass at the arcade and then he fucking did a fatality on you and everybody was watching him do the fatality, it was a big deal. They were like, oh shit, he knows how to do the fatality. I was watching a video about Virtua Fighter back in the day, Virtua Fighter 2, and the strong characters of Virtua Fighter 2, and they were talking about this one combo that would like consistently knock your character out that the old Chinese dude could do, but like there wasn't, only one people of one region knew how to do the technology, so then like people were like, what the fuck, the Kansai Lao of Virtua Fighter 2, they can do this, but we can't do it. Nobody can beat them. Like, what's going on? And that people would have to like come together and like study this shit like it's the Cold War, like it's a Cold War like technological race or something, because there wasn't the internet, so there would be knowledge of the character in one part of the country but not in other parts of the country. It was way more interesting back then. All this regional shit. And then there's like this legendary match that still has like 500,000 views on YouTube, where one wolf player of Virtua Fighter 2 figured out that there was like half a frame delay when the Lao character was like doing their unbeatable combo, in which you could like block it and then grab the dude, and it's like a one frame link or some shit, and then he does it like 4 times in a row during this huge major tournament, and like everybody in this tiny little arcade fucking loses their mind, and it's just like has gone down in like one of the great moments of Virtua Fighter and fighting game history. And it's hard to get shit like that anymore, right? Because like everybody knows everything immediately, to the point that Street Fighter 6 just straight up has the frame data available to you, so nothing is really hidden. But back in the era, there was legitimately like a info war going on between people who knew shit and people who didn't know shit. Koreans showing up at EVO literally moving different than everyone else in Tekken. You're like, what's going on? How is he backdashing like that? The technology! You think that shit doesn't happen, but then you follow stuff like the Fist of the North Star fighting game, and until recently it was just like Toki all the time. It was just endless Tokis. And then recently, like 2 years ago, a Rao team won the big tournament, and everyone's like, oh my god! Like 20 years in, they've finally broken through. So that shit is what I still find legitimately inspiring, and why I still enjoy following the fighting game community. Because even when it's esports, like the esports stuff is actually not that interesting at this point. When corporations get involved and you have like ad breaks, like it all gets boring. But as long as there's still like forgotten games being played by, you know, people who care about it in dingy little arcades and people like fucking getting hype, it's still worth following. The Saudi tournament that gives you like $300,000, not as much interesting. EVO is just like a bunch of Chipotle ads now, so... Fighting games were the most interesting when there was a legitimate threat of real-world violence. If you beat someone too bad in an arcade, they would take you out back and beat your actual ass in real life. Actual thuggery. Corpos could never beat a grassroots community. I shit on Nintendo a lot for not wanting people to play Melee, but maybe that's the way it's supposed to be, you know? Maybe you should have an antagonistic relationship between your fan base and the corporation. Maybe you should just be like, fuck them. Everybody else is just like, yeah, we're supporting our competitive community. But Nintendo is like, no, it's a party game. You're not allowed to have fun in pure Nintendo fashion. The face when you beat the son of the local cartel member in KOF. Yeah, that dude is gone. It does make you wonder about like all the Pakistani Tekken players, right? Pakistani is still very much a third world country. We don't really have any stories of them getting their ass beaten, but you can kind of imagine that like local Pakistani drug lord could beat your ass if you beat them too hard in Tekken or something. Gone just like that Mexican streamer. There's actually so many streamers and like people that have gotten on the wrong side of cartel that I don't know which one you're talking about. I think there was like a Brazilian guy who was like in legitimate debt to the drug lords because he was pretending to be rich. He was doing the classic like, I'm gonna be pretending to be rich to get views, but I'm not actually rich, I'm just in debt. Except the people he were in debt to wasn't like a standard credit card company, but he was instead in debt to like local drug lords in Brazil, and then he just fucking got disappeared. Recently one got drive-by'd on a cycle on stream. Jesus. I wonder if the Twitch AI came in and banned him while he was bleeding out on the floor. They'd be like, yes, you weren't having uncensored sex like that female streamer. You got shot instead. We're gonna have to ban your account. I'm sorry. Might have been on Kick. I'm sure there's way more occasions like that on Kick than there are on Twitch. Kick was basically built specifically for that purpose, so hot tub streams and drive-by streams. I can't remember, was Johnny Somali on Kick when he was getting attacked and doing illegal shit in Korea and stuff? The general life cycle of this shit is like you start on Twitch, right? And then when your stuff gets too hot for Twitch, you move to Kick. I can't remember if Johnny Somali made the move at some point. He was on Rumble. Holy fuck. I can't remember, was Rumble the conservative themed one? When you get banned on Kick, you know you're in the deep end of doing inappropriate behavior and you probably need help. Speaking of short people having no human rights, by the way, if you ever needed like example A, exhibit A of this is obviously Johnny Somali. Honestly, I don't think I had even heard of Johnny Somali until he got arrested in Korea. I might have heard about him while he was doing shit in Japan, but I'm not even sure about that. I think the first time I heard about Johnny Somali when people was like, finally Johnny Somali has been arrested. I'm like, what? How long has this been dude around? People were basically, he had an entire arc that spanned for several years in which people were just endlessly waiting for his downfall. Pretty funny if you think about it, to have like an entire career about people waiting for you to fail. I love how his mom wrote a plea to his judge. He's a good boy, he didn't do nothing. Actual grown man being like, your mom has to fucking save you. If that quote gets associated with a particular so often, there might be an issue. Now. This is already known as a 4chan chud stream, so let's not go down that path too far. It's unfair that women are capable of reproducing even if they have short genes, and then because they can reproduce with short genes, they pass their short genes down to their sons, and now their sons are get fucked. It's a vicious cycle. If we held both women and men to the same height standards, we wouldn't have so many short people. I agree, this is why I need to find an 8-foot tall Dami mommy, no other reason. That would be the good aspect of being short as a man, is when you have sex with a woman, you can pretend you're a goblin. You can do a goblin play or a Mineta play. Same thing, functionally the same thing. Pretend you're Mineta from My Hero Academy, climbing on the big titty girls. Of course, the best solution to this is if women just became much taller, but unfortunately they don't seem to be willing to do that for us, so... Shame on you females. Why aren't you at least 8 feet tall? Not everyone wants to roleplay as Gobbo or the Grapist. It's okay, Mineta is just, he's just having a little giggle. It's all good fun. He's a pervert, but in a funny way. Some are dwarf chads. Dwarf chads just out here wrestling with other dwarf males, comparing each other's beards. Street Fighter's Elena is tall. She's like close to 8 feet. She's like 7 foot something, isn't she? I give Street Fighter 6 a lot of credit for putting Elena in a fucking thong and then covering the thong with the jean shorts that look for the swimsuit costume. She has like the fucking triangle thong. And then that would be too indecent though. So she instead has the cut-off jeans. This is peak fashion right here. If you only had the thong, that would be lewd, too lewd. But tastefully covering it with the jean shorts. Being 6'5" and wanting a taller girlfriend. You just have to wait for the alien invasion. And then the Macros Zentrarian females that are all like... How tall are they? They're like 10 meters tall or something. They're the size of an actual mobile suit. Wiki says Elena is 6'1". Dude, all the numbers in the Street Fighter universe are just fucked up. Sagat is famous for being like the same weight as me, even though he's like 6'5" or something. We need to get cracking on those genetic experiments. Hot. Just being like, yeah, we need to have eugenics, not for getting rid of the racial traits we don't like, but instead just amplifying the racial traits that we do like, such as tall women. Eugenics is so sexy, it is. One of the unspoken parts of American sports dominance that people don't want to talk about is a lot of the reason why we have all these like super athletic black people is because they were literally like breeding slaves. Or at least that's the theory. They were like, let's force the slaves to have kids between these, like, you know, super productive athletic people so we can have super slaves. We're not supposed to admit this happened, though, because it would be too controversial, I guess. Also, all the weak slaves probably died out because they were being forced to work like 12 hours a day in the cotton fields. But we also don't want to talk about that either. Also an awkward conversation. What happened to the weak slaves? I don't know, man. They just disappeared somehow. Unless we can reinforce the structure of the spine, there's very little quality of life for tall people as they go up in years. Even if they work out, the bones are not made for that. Yeah, I don't want like unnaturally tall people. I want to have sex with tall women that are built to be tall and massive. Like ogre females. Where is my ogre female god? Reminds me of how in Dragon's Dogma, in the base game of Dragon's Dogma, you fight normal ogres, and there's like a nice Berserk reference in which the ogres start getting horny and they attack female party members. And all your pawns are like, it likes the smell of the women. And it's like, oh my god, it's a Berserk rape reference. That's so Kino. But then when you get to Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, the expansion, there's these enemies called Elder Ogres, and they're even bigger female ogres, and it's like, it's getting horny for the men! I'm like, here we go, let's fucking go! The female ogre wants the male dick. As a hero, it is my job. Satisfy the female ogre dick lust. Unfortunately, they're not sexy feminine ogres. They're just large gorillas, but... super predators, Hillary Clinton, the good old days in the 90s when we thought that somehow that if our black population was using crack, they would give birth to like an entire generation of superpowered criminals or something, instead of just the babies having significant health problems. What a silly time that era was. There legitimately wasn't many problems back then because we could spend our time worrying about the quote-unquote super predators. It was just a fun, silly time. We had a lot of time to care about Bill Clinton's cigar antics and whether all that crack use was making our future criminals too powerful. The crack will clearly give them superpowers. Yeah, just like all the previous drugs that kids got during the womb. Remember that time in which that kid had fecal alcohol syndrome, and as a result he could fly? Imagine him being even more powerful. That's the power of the crack babies. Apparently the crack babies, although they were in danger of like dying at birth, turned out to be okay once they got out of that stage. Whereas fetal alcohol syndrome has clear lasting effects. So once again, alcohol being proven to be literally worse than like crack cocaine. It's insane that we allow people to just drink alcohol, actually. It's pretty high up there on the kinds of drugs in terms of its negative health consequences. Probably legitimately worse for you than just like straight up cocaine. Why couldn't we be the caked up 8s instead of the bald and hysterical ones? If we want to have gorilla ass, we just need to work out harder. That's an effort issue. You haven't been trying hard enough to build your gorilla body. Fetal alcohol syndrome is a fucking trip. Yeah. Apparently if you go around like Russia, there's just all sorts of people with fecal alcohol syndrome and shit. Prohibition era, lots of crime is going to happen again if they ban alcohol. Yeah, so we know from the Prohibition era that you can't just ban one of our most popular drugs, that people have come to expect it to not be banned. However, we still have illegal prostitution being illegal. We still, you know, there's all of this shit that we had illegal for the longest amount of time, and it didn't result in society's collapse. So I don't know. I guess we're going the opposite way in most things, like gambling and stuff, where it's being legalized instead of being made illegal, but I don't know, man. I kind of feel like a lot of shit should just be like mildly illegal, like weed. Not super illegal, just sort of illegal. So it's hard to get it if you're someone like me who has no connections, but everybody else can get it. Obviously that just results in the entire judicial system being used as a way to put black kids in prison because racist policies and all that, but society feels somewhat collapsy at the moment. Not in Japan. Japanese society, it's okay. If you ask a Japanese person if society feels collapsy, they'll definitely tell you it does feel collapsy, but as someone who just came from America in which it was noticeably collapsy, I'm like, nah, Japan isn't even close to being collapsy. They still have a ways to go. Legal slavery? What, for getting people to work 50 hours a day? I guess that's part of the collapsiness, but that's maintaining society. It ain't that bad. Japan doesn't have to worry about other cultures coming in. Well, they have to make sure that they don't allow immigration to get any, more prominent. But yeah. There's just a lot more evidence in American when you look at American society about like how collapsy society can get before it's still, even though it hasn't collapsed yet. The AI bubble, for example, which is literally just companies doing circular financing, passing money back and forth without the government, anybody in the government to be like, maybe we shouldn't allow this, I feel is just like end stage of society not functioning. There's nobody saying like you can't do that. Same thing, for example, China. I was listening to a podcast of a Chinese scholar in Japanese who follows things in China, and he was talking about like a local murder that happened in Chinese society, and it was because there was like some sort of housing reform company that scammed a dude out of his money, and the reform company was connected to the mafia in this local town. So already we see like the Chinese Communist Party obviously isn't going to spend any time cracking down on the mafia and stuff like that. So all sorts of criminal businesses are out there scamming people. So this dude got angry and he just went to the business that scammed him and like murdered a bunch of them. So that's already like collapse of society. Stage one is that Chinese people know that the government and the police aren't going to help them, so they have to take shit into their own hands. And then stage two was like, then he ran away and the authorities, they had to like crack down because the Chinese Communist Party hates a collapse of public order. So they had like tens of thousands of people like looking for him, but he was like hiding in cornfields and local areas. And ultimately they weren't able to catch him because none of the locals were giving up his location and stuff like that. So it also shows that people no longer trust the government, and they're not even willing to give up like their locals to the government as well. Like nobody trusts the central government to help them, and they don't trust the central government even enough to like give them a reward and shit like that. It seems very much end state of like people are now hunkering down into their local communities and villages. Nobody has any trust in the central authority to get shit done anymore. Which is kind of like the end stage of this shit, right? I think the lady who turned in Luigi Mangione didn't even get her reward. Yeah. So yeah, that's another example of people just being like, yeah, fuck this, fuck the corporations. We ain't turning this dude in, except this woman did. So America hasn't fully gone full. We can't trust anything mode yet, but they're getting close. All right, guys. I have to go shopping today. See you around, boys. Have a nice night. I won't be buying a gaming PC yet, but I'm thinking about it. We can talk about more gaming PC stuff in the future once I start to narrow down my choices. See you around, guys. Good night.